before we get started, I want to thank you guys for coming on today. I got two guests, one return guest, Taylor Ardis. Taylor's been on a couple times now. One for drone or deer recovery. The other, what was the other for? Just a big buck story, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And then you pull your mic in a little bit towards you. There you go. Yep. Okay. And then now you got a new endeavor coming.
I do.
Yeah, we can talk about that. And then you brought along your buddy Josh. Josh, what's your last name again?
Alberts.
So Taylor and Josh are here today. And, we're just going to kind of BS and we'll see where it takes us.
I love it.
So
down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to end up being probably mostly about deer hunting and maybe some drone stuff, maybe some ag stuff, food plot stuff maybe. I don't know. So anyway, thanks for coming on, guys. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
So I guess, Taylor, you've been here before, so I'm going to just kind of jump over you. I'm going to go to Josh. Josh, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what your story is and what brings you here today.
How long we got?
I mean, we got some time. We'll go till the conversation gets shitty, and then we'll shut it down. But
no, I've done a little bit of a variation of a lot of things. So,
okay.
Like we were talking about before, construction and stuff, local, small town kid, Marion, Cadillac area.
Okay.
And basically grew up in Osceola County, near where Taylor lives. Mm-hmm. Hunting and fishing since I was tall enough to do that. Took a stab at going that route in the, as far as a career or a job is considered.
In the industry, yeah.
I don't think I made it to the industry, but
right. You were close.
Tried to get in there. Tried a few things that allowed me to work in what I'm passionate about.
Yep.
And now taking a different path towards that. Now I'm working on being an electrician. So
that's quality work. I'm not like I would never downplay that. It's probably more secure than being in the industry, the hunting industry, so to speak.
That's what I think is overlooked a lot. We all look at things and go, man, I wish I could do that all day, every day.
Yeah.
You know? And then if you go and do that all day, every day, there's a backside to that where it becomes a job.
Absolutely.
So if you love to hunt and fish, and that's great, and that's what you do in your fun for your spare time, and then you go and do it for a job, it also becomes a job.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys probably know guys that are either fishing guides or hunting guides or whatever, and I mean, you talk when those guys were first doing it, they loved it. Well, now they've made a career out of it. They've been doing it for 5, 10, 15 plus years. Like you talk to them, and it almost feels like it's a job now.
Last thing they want to do this weekend is go fishing again.
Yeah, it's not as fun as what it used to be. So, yeah. So you got into the electrical industry, which I like. That's good because that sort of job will allow you to do a lot of hunting and fishing.
No doubt. That's the angle I'm taking.
Yeah, sweet. So Taylor, give us the backstory a little bit. What you've been up to?
Yeah. Basically, we as a drone business, EA Drone Solutions, we've been.
And this is a new business.
Yeah. So we have been, we were in operation last year, and we were just focused on getting, everything dialed in, making sure that we were as equipped as can be, making sure that we were, advertising the right way. So now, this year, we are full scale, ready to go. We've got 2 drones in operation.
Okay.
We've got, potentially we'll have a 3rd drone on the way. We cover just about every crop field you can think of.
Right. And so for the people that don't know, Taylor started up an ag drone business.
Yeah.
Seeding, spraying. What else?
Those are the two
main ones.
Yeah.
Is there something else that like you can do with an ag drone?
Not necessarily. I mean, there's different things that pop up. I've seen where they've used the ag drones to like paint buildings, like the
like spray, maybe like spray, paint or spray something,
paint the roofs of metal buildings and stuff to help keep in or keep the sun off of the building, stuff like that. Help regulate heat.
Yeah, and you started that business up last year, right?
Yep.
Last spring.
Yes.
So it's spring of 24, and you got some contracts, some fields and stuff. And how many acres did you end up doing for the year?
We ended up doing just over 7,000.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Just in the local area that you live in, or did you have to travel a little bit?
For the most part, we were in the McBain Cadillac area, and then we did contract a couple of jobs a little bit further south. We got as south as Battle Creek.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And you're looking to expand that business this
Sure,
year.
hoping so.
Damn, dude. I want you to expand that business because when I am done doing what I am doing for work, I want to go fly drones with you.
I'm waiting. As soon as you're ready, we're ready to expand back over here to my home roots. So
I
I'd
need
love
you to make your $1 million and then just cut a tiny little percentage off for me out of that, and then I'll work for that.
Sold. Done.
Oh, yeah. So you guys aren't in business together, are you? No. Okay. So what's the relationship here? How did you guys meet?
We met through the bow shop, our local bow shop.
Oh, no shit.
Right there in Marion. Yeah, I remember. Josh built my arrows. Would have been.
I built my arrows, and you built some that looked just like mine.
He built my arrows 2 years ago.
Okay.
And
so were you working at the shop, Josh?
Just helping out.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
And then we just had people in common, and we knew that, and we got put in the same situation a couple of times, and we started talking. We're like, "Hey, you like to hunt?" And he's like, "Yeah, like I really like to hunt." I'm like, "Me too, dude."
Yeah,
So we just started.
It's kind of one of those things that hunting will bring a lot of folks together that wouldn't normally talk. You know, I mean, I've met a ton of people, just random. You know, they see a T-shirt or a hat or something, and you know, as long as you're open for conversation, usually ends up pretty well. So it's going pretty well. But anyway, have you guys traveled hunting together?
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
It's on the docket at some point.
All right.
I've traveled a bunch, but not with Taylor yet.
Okay.
But we've talked about it.
Tell me
it's
about
coming.
it. Yeah. So I guess how did you get in, what was your upbringing in hunting then? Like who got you started?
My dad, my grandpa, family.
Okay.
You know, I grew up with the kind of, I don't know if it's stereotypical. It seems very normal to me, but, or in our area, but grew up hunting, fishing, trapping from the earliest age I could get out there with my dad.
Yeah.
That was, I had sports in high school and stuff, so I was kind of focused there. But
sure,
when high school goes away, that's what remained was like hunting and archery and fishing, and that's when I really kind of dove into that full steam ahead.
Okay.
So I've been
nice. And you were saying that you moved to Iowa for a brief period of time.
I did.
Were you there long enough to get your residency?
I was.
How long were you there for?
8 months.
8 months. Okay. All right. And you were working a farm out there.
Yep.
Did you get to hunt?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I got.
Okay.
Again, like we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
When I was working on a farm for hunting, doing land management stuff.
Okay.
That kind of overtook my hunting season. So there's a little bit of a backside to that again, where you're working in it. So you're working around it all year, and that's cool. But then during hunting season, you almost don't get to hunt for yourself very much because it's all hands on deck. It's 100 miles an hour. It's go, go, go. That's what this is for. And that's where all the focus goes.
Yep.
It wasn't a bad thing. So don't take me wrong. I'm not knocking it. It was really enjoyable.
Cool to be a part of.
But yeah, I was an Iowa resident last year, and I didn't get to go hunting more than 6 or 7 times.
Damn.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Which was really funny to me to be there and then go hunting on like the public land. I didn't own anything.
Right.
And all I saw was non-residents, which was me.
Sure.
Like just weeks
8
before
months
that.
Prior. Right. Exactly.
And I've traveled to hunt there before, and you go and you hunt for a week, and it's totally different than you live there, and you go out on the public, and every truck you see is from somewhere else. It was kind of a weird moment.
You're right.
I've always, quote unquote, been a non-resident.
Okay.
Everywhere I went, and that was the first time I'd had a residency somewhere.
So you're like the first person I know who went to Iowa who loved hunting who didn't get to go hunting very much. So, but I mean, it happens. You were out there for work.
Yep.
And hunting takes a back seat to work. So yeah.
And when the work is hunting, you're working during hunting season.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, a lot.
And Thad can 100% agree with you, because like that's what he does for a living, is film hunts and stuff. So like when it's prime time hunting season, well, guess who's out in a tree or doing filming? Like he's filming hunts. So it's like his hunting. He has to like set aside time for that. So, which, you know, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So, but yeah. What were you primarily like a bow hunter, gun hunter?
Big bow hunter.
Okay.
I've done a lot of archery in general. I shoot competitively as well. So
Okay.
I've spent a ton of time on the range in the wintertime, 3D in the summertime, and then
Nice.
it's bow hunting in the fall.
Full commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
Help run some regional archery association, Straitsfield Archery Association, which is kind of the Northwest Michigan region. I was involved with that for a number of years,
Okay.
which is it's really fun. It's a fantastic community. I can't speak enough about the archery community. It's kind of the only sport where everybody does it at the same time. You could have your grandpa,
Yeah.
your wife, your kids, your buddy, his
Right.
wife, and everybody's standing there doing the same thing, but there's classes for everything. There's equipment classes, there's age classes, there's skill level classes.
Yep.
So it's not like football where it's red team versus blue team and they're all playing football. It's everybody's doing archery, but you're standing on a line with 20 other people and
Right.
you might not be competing against any of them.
Right.
So I think it's probably intimidating for people to want to step into that environment, but once you get there, it's the most open and welcoming environment I've been around.
Yeah, that's
Everybody's
cool. I guess I never really thought about it that way when you're going to those archery competitions. That's not something that I've really been involved in, but yeah, I would imagine there's a pretty good sense of community there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everybody's really willing to share information and really willing to share gear and equipment. And like Taylor, we were building arrows and we're sitting there
Right.
talking. I've done this, I've done that. You want your arrows to perform a certain way for a certain function. What do we do to get that? And everybody's just
Throwing in their
throwing
2
their
cents.
knowledge. It's not like everybody's like, oh, I compete against you, I'm not going to give you knowledge. It's everybody's open and sharing equipment and sharing knowledge all the time.
Yeah.
It's really open arms.
Okay. I like that. Have you you've shot in these competitions for a while?
Oh yeah.
When did you start doing that?
Probably 11 years ago or so.
Okay. All right.
That's when I really started taking it seriously and
Sure.
trying to improve myself to be a better bow hunter.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
I
and-
mean, I think that kind of is what it revolves around, is you want to just become a better bow hunter, I would think.
I hear people say like, I'm not a competitive guy, or
Right.
I'm not an archer. I'm a bow hunter.
Right.
Well, I shoot in the bow hunter class. I've traveled to shoot. I've shot across the state. I've shot multiple states with bow hunter equipment.
Mm-hmm.
I've had mud and blood on my bow and arrows and
Right.
gone
Showing
and won
up to a
tournaments with it.
competition. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think truly, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think truly that you need like the really, really detailed stuff to be good at it. You just
No.
have to be comfortable with what you have.
Yeah. Some of the best
Like
guys in the bow hunter class shoot
shoot
similar
their-
equivalent
shoot-
to scores to like the freestyle class with 30-inch stabilizers and magnified lenses and stuff.
Yeah.
If you can shoot, you can shoot.
Right. Right.
If you apply yourself, you most certainly will get better over time. And that was how I got started. I wanted to be a better bow hunter, and that's the only place I've found where you can closely, it's not exactly the same, but closely replicate that. You
Yeah.
put yourself in a situation where there's some pressure,
Oh yeah.
which kind of mimics that hunting situation where it's time to make a shot and you've got to make it count, when you have to go step up on the line and you've got 4 minutes to take 5 shots and you need them to be as absolutely accurate
Right.
as possible. It's kind of the similar situation. Get your head in that mind space where you got to perform, and you got to perform right now.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah. And people are watching. So I mean,
Which is a lot of pressure.
That in itself is pressure. Yeah. Let alone putting a timer on it and stuff.
Does it
like
help
that.
you remember your shot?
absolutely.
Because I know that's my biggest issue when I'm out in the field and I'm actually taking a shot at an animal. You know, if it's a doe, if it's a big buck, whatever
Yeah.
it is, it gets so blurry for my memory of that pressure that builds. Even though you feel confident, you feel comfortable, you do these things,
Yeah.
and you hit all your different marks that you're looking for before you shoot. I'd have to imagine that definitely helps.
Certainly. It's even if you just shot a league.
Yeah.
You're saying not taking it super seriously, but you shoot a league. You go in once a week. You shoot paper targets. They don't move, but they're incredibly hard to hit when you're shooting at a dime or a quarter, even at 20 yards. The trick is that you do that 70 times at each shoot. So you go in every week, you shoot your bow 70 times.
Yeah.
And then you shoot that for 10 or 12 weeks, and that's hundreds of shots. And then you go shoot some 3D in the summer with your buddies, and you go out and you shoot a 30 target course, 30 more arrows every week, and you shoot 6 or 8 3D courses.
Tons of muscle memory there.
You've got 1,000 shots in before October 1st even rolls around, and when you draw back on that deer,
that isn't even come into the equation.
It's automatic.
Yeah.
Right.
That thought process doesn't even come into the equation.
You're just pointing the pin and you know what to do.
Yeah.
And you're confident in that.
Yeah.
And
you know, if you hit your spot on the deer, you more than likely, unless something really crazy ass happens, like, you know, deer jumps or something. Which deer do. They don't read the script, that's for sure. But yeah, that's important. I mean, practice makes perfect when it comes to that. That's for sure. So, yeah. Do you shoot?
I just shoot a lot of arrows in my yard.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably will, before last summer, because last summer, of course, with the new business, it definitely changed my my regimen and what I was shooting a lot. In years past, I would put a couple thousand arrows down in the summer, no problem. You know, shoot, get a half a dozen arrows and go through it, 20, 30, 40, 60, bring it back into 20 to make you feel good before you're done.
Yeah.
Shoot all those. So I shot a lot, but I've never shot competitively. I've always thought about it. I've always wanted to. I think from an outside perspective of not being a part of anything like that, it almost feels intimidating because you see everyone, you know, at these shoots, and then you see some of the scores and you see that and you're like, whoa, like, you know, am I that good? And then I get outside and I shoot and I'm like, I could probably compete.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have that weird feeling of it just looks intimidating to then actually have a written score down that says that's what you shot. And, you know, that's just my thought pattern too. And then also seeing some of the equipment that you were talking about that other people will show up with. I'm like, I probably won't invest in the stuff like that.
Yeah, because they're not, like, a lot of those are not hunting bows.
No.
Right.
What's the poundage? What's the poundage on those bows? I always wondered that because I don't think that those guys are pulling back 60, 70 pounds.
They're not. Like my target bow, I shoot at 58 pounds.
Okay.
So and you don't want to shoot too heavy in that because of the repetition. The amount of repetition you do it'd be a workout.
That'd be absolutely
to go in there and shoot consistently.
Yeah, you'd get fatigued pretty quick.
60 shots for score at 70 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Now, is that like paper targets or are you talking 3Ds? 3D
paper.
targets?
It's 3D. People will shoot a little bit higher poundages, play with their arrow weights and stuff to get, you know, a little flatter, a little better, a little more forgiving trajectory downrange.
Yeah.
But but that's less shots also. So it's typically a different setup than your per se exact hunting setup.
Okay.
Like I've shot my hunting bow. The reason I got a second one, which is set up very similarly, my stabilizers are the same weight. My arrows are different for target shooting purposes and versus hunting purposes. But the bows are set up nearly identical, so I can pick one or the other up.
Sure.
So I have one that's set up that I'll go and shoot paper with, and one that's set up. And not everybody has to do that. Like I shot in Taylor's situation for years where I would take my bow in the wintertime.
Yep.
I'd probably drop that poundage down 5 to 8 pounds.
Switch it up a little bit.
But I was shooting my Carbon Express Maxima Red 350s with field points on them. Yeah. And I would take those same exact arrows and slap a broadhead in them and go hunting and crank my bow up. I would have to go out in the yard, take a few shots, you know, readjust my sights for that poundage change. But that was a lot of practice and a lot of, like Taylor said, it can look intimidating, but what you don't see is the guys that are standing there that have been doing it for a long time is we all started in the same place.
Yeah.
You know, we all sucked when we started, right?
Right.
So I went in there with my hunting bow and somebody said, "Hey, you know, you should join a league and shoot." I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds cool." And I did. And 10 years later, I was an integral part of of the archery scene in the area, and I love it. And
Yeah.
I met a lot of people, and I learned a lot of things, and I played with a lot of equipment, and nobody ever once looked down on me for how I was shooting.
Yeah.
And if I was not happy with the way I was shooting, everybody was just welcoming with information.
Sure.
Here's
Maybe you should
something
try
that might
this.
help you. Hey,
Yeah.
I was watching you shoot, and I noticed this, Maybe if you tried it like this, it might help you get a little more consistency. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, the consistency is what matters, and consistency kills. If you're going to take your bow in the woods,
Yeah.
we can kill paper all day long, and there's no consequence. When you go into the woods and there's a living animal on the other end of that, you got to be at your best.
Yeah.
And they have 50% of the equation at that point, because they're going to do what they do, and you can't control any of that.
Oh man, you just blew my mind.
So I could go and win a state championship, and then go out in the woods and get schooled by a doe
Right.
all in the same weekend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you lose that battle because they're incredible what they
Yeah.
can do when you pull a bow and point an arrow at them.
Right.
They got 2 jobs: survive and make more, and they only do
Yeah.
one of those for 1 month a year.
Right. Exactly.
So they're very, very good at it, and they
Yeah.
take so much. If you're, we've all probably heard, I can hit a paper plate. That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Paper plate's the size of a vitals.
Yeah.
I get the correlation, but in my mind, if I can hit a paper plate and a deer moves, I'm pretty quickly off that paper plate.
Right.
And I'm calling Taylor and his dog to come and track
Yeah,
a
no
deer,
doubt.
and we're out till 1 o'clock
No
in the
doubt.
morning. And nobody wants to see an animal suffer, and you don't want to have that happen. And even with shooting all that, I've wounded deer too.
Yep.
But I know, because I've spent that time behind my bow, I know where my weaknesses are. I know what I want to work on, and just continuing to try to improve, because when it comes down to that moment, you got to shoot one arrow, and you got to be on top of your game. You got to do everything you can. And in my mind, I try to do everything I can to make it
Yeah.
right.
Make it right. Do it right. Yeah. Like, I lost my first deer this year. I called you.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I was so sick to my stomach. Never did find that deer, but it did get over on some private ground that I couldn't get on, and I knew it was going to die because, I put it right through his guts. But that's the first deer in a long, long time that I had even hit in the guts, and 2 lost. So, that was like, that hurt.
It happens to everyone too. It's
Yeah.
not just a
Yeah,
it's not
to
a
say
fluke. You do it
that
long
it's
enough.
never happened,
Yeah.
you haven't hunted long enough.
Mhm.
Or it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, yeah,
It's more
exactly,
accurate.
exactly. Yeah, so and that's the thing. I try to do my due diligence. You owe it to the deer or whatever you're hunting to do the due diligence to make sure that if you're going to be in the woods and take that animal or attempt to take that animal, that you do it in a fashion that, like, there isn't a ton of suffering. Because nothing makes me more bummed out than to see something suffer, especially something that I'm shooting at or put an arrow in or a bullet or whatever,
Exactly.
threw a spear at it or whatever, that stuff sucks. So, but getting back to the target archery. So if you're shooting paper targets, bullseye targets, do you use bigger arrows, bigger diameter arrows? And why, if you do, why do you use bigger diameter arrows? Is it just basically to hit break a mark or a line?
Some of that. And,
Yeah.
And people will call them line breakers and
Yeah.
and think that an arrow in the middle is an arrow in the middle,
Sure.
no matter the diameter.
Sure.
Sometimes you could shoot a bigger arrow and think you're going to score more points, and you might not, because
Could go on the outside.
depending on your bow setup and depending on the spine and the weight,
Right.
There's a lot of variables there that you can toy with. For me, some of the bigger arrows are a little stiffer,
Okay.
so they will, if I'm doing my job driving the bow and my form is on point and the bow is tuned well, they can hold a little bit tighter pattern. And yes, they do have the potential to break a line.
Yeah.
But more of it is it's not a typical bow hunting setup either. Like
Yeah.
some of my target arrows are like I'll say a 27 diameter shaft. Not everybody will know what that means, but it's the largest diameter shaft you can shoot.
Okay.
There's regulations on that too. You can't
Okay.
shoot a 1 inch thick arrow.
Sure. Sure.
you could try, but
I was about to say,
Be interesting. Isn't that a spear?
so there's
put that
some
thing through a whisker biscuit.
Right.
I mean, shoot.
Right. Yeah.
there's some limitations on that, but I also have like 300 grains in the front of that arrow, so it's more like a lawn dart. It's like a big stiff
Gotcha.
lawn dart that lobs in there, and it takes more error to throw that arrow off course.
Okay.
Its margin of error is less, so it's more consistent, and if you're off a little bit, it's not getting as far away as potentially a light fast arrow
Yeah.
might, or something that's got a little softer spine that's going to have more flex
Okay.
in the arrow flight, and it might not be as consistent.
Okay. So you've explained all that, which leads me to the next question. Guys always talk about, or it was a big thing here a few years ago, weight forward and different sizes and weights and stuff like that. Man, I don't know shit about any of that stuff because that was never really thought of, at least in my hunting space of friends. Like, you just went and grabbed whatever arrow you thought worked, or whatever arrow like the chart said you should have. Explain that to me. What's your thoughts on that? Is that like just a bunch of ways to sell a bunch of arrows and shit, or is there something to that?
There's something to it, and I think that there's the heavy arrow versus light arrow, fast versus trajectory. There's 100 things going on there. It's kind of interesting for me. I've been shooting in that kind of the archery side arena in that space long enough. A lot of that actually comes from, in my opinion, from what I've seen over the years, from that space, because that's something that has been done there a long time.
Okay.
Particularly weight forward, and as I mentioned, having a heavy point in an arrow, or a stiffer arrow, or a longer arrow.
Okay.
A lot of arrows just get cut to a half inch in front of the rest for clearances for a broadhead. But you could, in the target archery world, you could adjust the length of your arrow to change how it flies. You could adjust the weight of your arrow to change how it flies. You could you can add weight to the front of it to soften it up. You could lighten the weight in the front of it to stiffen it up to get a clean shooting arrow.
Sure.
But a lot of times that comes with, it's very common to have a stiff arrow and then soften it a little bit by loading up that front end.
Okay.
And again, that kind of lawn dart,
I think that's how
is a
mine's
pretty
set up,
basic.
yeah.
It's a pretty basic analogy, but it's kind of like if you threw a baseball with a string attached to it. The string is going to follow the baseball.
Sure.
The fletchings just kind of steer and guide behind that point, and that point is going to pull the arrow to the target. And that's been done in target archery for a long time, and then kind of the heavy arrow, called a craze, I don't know, comes along, and now it has entered the hunting space, and you can go way, way, way deep with all that. But in my mind, a lot of it comes from having potentially a more flight stable and accurate, consistent arrow from the target world, because I was introduced to that 10 years ago. And then 3 or 4 years ago, it really kind of hit the hunting space, which was interesting for me to see, having seen the other side of it and played with that equipment there. But even I had never correlated that to the hunting space either. That was my target stuff, and this was my hunting stuff, and I was still shooting the same old 350s,
Yeah.
and an expandable broadhead and launching them at deer. So there's a tremendous wealth of information in that field. It's
almost too much.
The rabbit hole is deep. You can
Yeah.
get lost in the weeds pretty easy. I try to keep it a little bit more simple.
Okay. So what is your setup that you take to the woods?
To the woods, I take, I'm shooting Prime Synergy, which is a little bit of an older bow, but it shoots well. It's something that I'm very familiar with. I've shot
I
for
shoot
years.
an old bow too, so it don't matter.
You could drive a race car, but it doesn't mean you're going to win the race.
That's
you know,
exactly
if
right.
you don't know how to drive.
That's right.
But I'm shooting Rip Victory Rip TKOs.
Okay.
It's a pretty lightweight shaft.
Okay.
And then I've got,
Is that carbon?
it is carbon.
Yeah, full carbon.
It's a slightly smaller diameter carbon.
Okay.
And then I have an additional 50 grains in my point weight. So the point weight has some weight, which is 75 grain point weight with 50 grain insert in it. And then 125 grain tip or 100 grain tip. I can interchange those and get a little bit different performance out of those arrows. So it's a little bit weight forward. It's a little bit heavier, but it's not as far as you can go. I built some, Taylor's seen them. I built some 600 grain arrows a couple years ago just to play with.
Just to see what they could do.
And they shot really, really, really well. But the trajectory on them is not great. So when you start talking about deer moving, things like that, it's still got to get there, and you got to be very accurate with your yardages.
Sure.
Now, are you talking 600 grains with just the arrow, not the tip, or tip included?
Well, the tip was 300 grains.
Oh.
So half of the weight of the arrow was
in the tip.
Right in the tip.
Damn.
And they shot incredibly accurately. I could shoot them out 80, 90, 100 yards. And
Oh, no kidding.
just dump them in there in a softball. They're,
Wow.
You just point them and they just lob in there and just stick. They're super consistent. But you start shooting at deer, or I travel out west to hunt too.
Yeah,
Now, I might take a longer shot, and having an accurate arrow at a longer shot is important. But at that distance with that arrow, a deer could run out of the way and be in the other county by the time it got there too.
Right.
So there's a line you can walk there, and I think you can go too light or too heavy, and I
Sure.
kind of landed in the middle, moving some of that weight into the front. It's still good for penetration. It's still good for accuracy. It's still stable in the wind. I don't think there's a perfect setup. It's kind of what you're comfortable with and what you
works
can
for
shoot
you.
well.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah, because I just never really, like when that, like you said, that whole kind of craze was going on, I just never really bought into it because I was just like, man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like I shot well with what I had. I mean, for years and years and years, I shot, essentially it was a target arrow. It was the Easton ACC, which was an aluminum wrapped in carbon. And at the time, everybody's like, well, this is the arrow that you should shoot for deer because this is what they shoot for target. And they were tough as hell. I don't even know if they make them anymore. Like, whether they do or don't, I don't shoot them anymore. But I just switched basically and flipped it. I went to a FMJ, which is it's carbon wrapped in aluminum now. So I just basically reverse the process, and they shoot fine, and I'm fine with it. But yeah, so I don't know how we went off on that tangent, but that's just a rabbit hole that we go down because you started talking about it, Josh. So I figured, well, why not ask some questions anyway? So, yeah. So you said you hunted out west.
Yep.
Yeah. What deer, elk,
Yeah.
mule deer?
Mule deer is my big kick right now.
Yeah.
I kind of fell in love with that.
Nice.
I went west for the first time in 13.
Okay.
With a gun, but it was a reasonable tag to get back then.
Yeah.
I
What
went to
state?
Montana.
Okay. Yep. I've hunted in No. Yes. No. Sorry.
Maybe. Thought about
Maybe.
it.
Squirrel.
Dreamt about it.
No, so I went out there, and it was eye-opening. It was incredible. Yeah, please.
Montana is it more mountain region?
I was in the foothills. I
Okay,
wasn't
you were
in
in
the
the
mountains.
foothills.
Okay. But chasing mule deer, spotting and stalking, and there with a gun was kind of like bow hunting here in a weird way. And the fact that trying to I could shoot my gun 300 or 400 yards. And
Sure.
Here, that's well onto the neighbor's place.
Right. Right.
You got to have some property to
So
shoot
that was a
far.
gun hunt that you went on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But I loved spotting and stalking, and I loved the country.
Yeah.
It was more the experience for me, and being out there and getting to 200 yards on a deer in nothing but skimpy grass on a
Right.
bald hilltop
Yeah.
is not the easiest thing in the world either.
Not at all.
So that was really fun. I did that exact same hunt every other year till 17. 18, I went to North Dakota. 19, I went to Arizona. 20, I went to Iowa. Not with a bow, though. North Dakota and Arizona were with a bow. Iowa was muzzleloader. And then I went to Ohio with a bow. And then South Dakota twice with a bow.
Nice. So you've traveled a little bit.
I think I got them all.
It's a lot.
What's your? Let me ask
It's
you
hard to
this.
remember, though.
Let me ask you this: what's the percentage of success,
With a bow.
just in general?
And when I figured it out, it got a lot better.
Sure. There's always a learning curve. I'm still learning. I've been doing
took
this
me-
shit for 24 years.
Actually, the year I went to North Dakota, I went twice. We tried early season for velvet. That's
Yeah.
not a thing here in Michigan, so that was pretty alluring. So we
Wish
went
it
out
was.
for 4 days in September, and then we went for 7 in November.
Yeah.
Didn't get a deer either time. Arizona got close, but didn't quite seal the deal. And then the last 2 years I went to South Dakota. I got about both years with my bow.
Nice.
The first year I went solo. That was really cool too. That was a really awesome experience that Taylor did this year
That's right.
after
You went to Dakota?
No, Kansas.
Oh, yeah.
he went
Yeah.
solo. Sorry,
I went
yeah.
went solo.
Oh,
He's the
solo
one
hunt.
that
Okay.
honestly, he's the one that encouraged me to do it.
Yeah.
Because my main buddy Ty that I usually go with, the first year I went, I wasn't even gonna go, and then Josh and I kind of dove into it, and we had that conversation of, it's eye opening to do something by yourself.
Dude, I give anybody credit that would do a hunt like that solo, because there is a lot of, in my opinion, there's a lot of risk there.
There's a lot going on when you're by
Yeah.
yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
besides just being in your own thoughts, there's the
Yeah.
whole human physical aspect of just being by yourself.
Yeah, like how do you talk yourself down from a freaking wanting to jump out of a tree when you haven't seen a deer in 2 days? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you can get into your own head big time.
Real quick.
Yeah, yeah,
Luckily for me, it was only,
yeah. We'll
You
get to
did-
that. We'll
Hey,
get
man,
to that story.
I went by myself.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's like showing up to McDonald's. Oh, I'll take a 150-inch deer, please. 5 minutes later, here you go, sir.
and then back home.
Great
same
service.
day.
Great
Yeah,
service.
yeah, exactly. So you've traveled quite a bit, Josh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and everything has been. I don't want it to. I used to pour concrete and
right.
go on a trip every year. That was
Yeah.
my life. I worked in a factory, went on a trip. It was something that I had to dedicate. It took a lot to make it happen, but nothing's guided.
Right.
It's all public land. It's all do it yourself. It's all what I can carry in my backpack and how far can I walk.
Yeah,
It's all on me, which I enjoy that. I enjoy.
that's a good challenge.
Yeah, and the challenge has changed and evolved over the years too, from going somewhere else and getting a deer to going to a type of landscape that I want to experience,
Yeah,
and then finding deer, and then where do I find deer?
yeah,
It's not the same every time, and every place I've been has got its own. As you said, there's a lot to it. Every you're talking a completely different geographic region.
Yep.
In the country. I went to Arizona in the end of January. We can't even deer hunt here. I've never done that before.
Right. Yeah.
Let alone experience the desert.
Right.
So that was pretty wild. And it was beautiful. It was awesome. Everything out there's pokey and sharp or poisonous and wants to kill you. And I got stung by more cactuses than I
Oh yeah.
like to admit.
I
but,
could imagine.
And then there's deer out there, and you're like, well, what do they even live on? What do they eat? I don't even know what any of these plants are. So you just visually have to see what they're doing and try to figure out why they're doing it. And then the chess game begins.
Right.
This is what they're doing. This is what they're looking for. This is what they're trying to find. How do I get on them? How do I intercept them? How do I cut the distance and get within bow range? And that's the part that I really, really enjoy. And then, all the logistics and stuff, it kind of becomes a whole year deal. You've got to apply in the spring.
Sure.
You got to know where you want to go. You got to apply. You got to get a tag. You got to figure out your logistics. Where am I going to go? You got a bunch of e-scouting on X Maps and, Google Earth and all that. So you're spending weekends in the off season working on your hunting season,
Right.
thinking about your hunting season. And that's fun. That's entertaining for me as well.
Do you guys, and this is a question for both of you, do you guys like to go and try different areas, or are you comfortable going back to like if you have success, do you like to go back to that same area year after year? I've had that conversation with a couple people, and I love different things, but I always seem to kind of go down this like path of like, well, I'm comfortable with going to this spot or this tree, and you don't kind of you don't get outside of that comfort zone too much. What's your thoughts on that? Taylor, you go first.
I'm a man of habit. If something's not the same from yesterday, I'm all sorts of messed up. And I think that's just in my DNA. I like to do the same things. Like in the morning, I'm going to wake up, put my clothes on, take my daughter to daycare.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to enjoy my 20 minutes of sitting there and drinking coffee, putting myself in a routine to be productive. And I think that rolls over into my hunting scene. I like to know as much about what I'm getting to as possible.
Yeah.
To feel like I'm putting, certain cards into my hand to be successful in it, to where, yeah, maybe I don't know, maybe I'm limiting myself in that way because I'm not out there exploring different spots to see what's over the next hill. I really like to find those certain pinch points, those certain spots, and find a couple of them. Okay. And then honestly, it's probably like if I'm going back to Kansas, right? Yep. I'm going to find 4 or 5 different spots that I really, really like. And each one of those is going to be huntable on a different wind. Okay. And that's about it. And from there, and if I can't successfully do it in one of those spots in the time that I'm given to be there, it wasn't there for me that year. Right. And that's just the way that I roll. I mean, that's not...
That makes sense because you can only be in one place at one time. So if you have too many, you just kind of limit yourself to, being successful because you're spot jumping all the time.
Yeah, but there's an advantage to the other side too of like being able to see more terrain. Maybe you went over that next hill and you're like, oh shit, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. See, that's what I run into. Like
I hate it.
You find a spot, you had success there, so you continue to have success there. And let's just say for whatever reason, you shoot a deer and then you go after that deer to a place you've never been, and then you realize, holy shit, like I should have been here the whole damn time rather than where I was. Right. It's just stuff like that drives me nuts. I've always been that guy that's like, what's over that hill over there? We should probably go check that out. And most of the time, nothing. But it's just...
Oh, you mean the deer that you were going to shoot 2 hours from now is bedded on the other side of that hill?
Yeah, exactly. It's just stuff like that.
It's hard.
Know. I get kind of caught up in going to the same places year after year because I'm comfortable there. I just know what's going to happen because I've been there enough. But I always have that in the back of my head going, it could be 100% different a mile away, and it might be better. So it's just... I don't know. I'm always one of them guys. It's like, what's over there? Let's check that out.
I'm excited to hear your perspective because I know because he's got that mindset.
Okay,
the same as you.
All right.
I know what it is.
Yeah. Let's hear it then.
I'm gonna go the opposite of Taylor.
Okay. Pull your mic in just a little bit to your mouth. There you go. That's good.
I actually noticed it here first.
Okay.
And it kind of put me at ease. I think to your point, the comfort. I want to go here where I think I have the highest. It's about efficiency, right? We all got a life. We got work. We got jobs.
Yeah, you only have X amount of time per week, per month, whatever, to hunt. So you want to make sure that you have maximum.
Right.
You're there.
We're setting up our properties and doing habitat management and all these things to maximize our opportunity for that one time that we're there. Right. To increase that percentage. But even on, like, my family property, there's 120 acres. I've shot 9 deer there. Well, a lot more than 9 deer, but 9 bucks there. And I've shot only 2 of them from the same spot. Even on a small property, well, arguably small, in the landscape of where deer travels throughout the course of a day, not that big part of their range, still killing deer in different places every year on the same land. So when I go out west, like you said, I want to see what's over the next hill. I may go to the same piece of public land, but it's 18,000 acres.
Yeah, exactly.
That gets me. I can't.
So
it's too much.
And actually, like last year, or 2 years ago, when I went to South Dakota, I got a buck. I was actually, it was unseasonably cold, and I was kind of, my plan where I wanted to go through my e-scouting and stuff, I had a vision of what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, where I thought deer were going to be, and I couldn't get there. The weather did not allow for it. So I had to scrap that all and go with basically nothing. But I was comfortable with that because I had done it here before, I had done it out there before, and I kind of lost my getting hung up on one spot because wherever they're at, that's just where I want to be. So wherever they're at today, that's where I want to go. Wherever they're at tomorrow, I'll go there. Could be two different spots, but as long as I can get in the game with them, that's kind of how I started attacking it the last few years. And then this year I went back and I wasn't able to make it to where I wanted to go. So then I went back to the same area, but I actually made it to the location that I wanted to make it to. Set up base camp and then hunted out of there.
Okay.
And then was successful there. So I'm in the camp, I guess, of just moving around and finding deer, figuring out what they're doing, and then getting in there with them and mixing it up.
Do you ever get afraid of burning a hunt, or does it bother you if you burned a hunt just to scout?
No.
Or would you rather I mean, I know guys that scout for 3 days to hunt for 2 days.
Yep.
Are you that guy? Or are you
Depends.
like jumping right in as soon as I hit the ground?
It's to me it's kind of always a hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be driving there and you roll up to the public and there's deer.
Yeah.
And if it's one you want to go after, you might get lucky.
Yeah, scenarios.
So you're kind of always paying
scenarios,
attention.
Kind of like an opportunist more than
Right. I've got a plan, but if I've got to alter that plan because of what I find, maybe I get where I'm going, I don't find deer. Like you said, you go over the next hill. I definitely want to see what's on the other side of every hill.
Right.
But if there's nothing over there, you either go to the next hill after that, or you turn around and go back the way you came.
Yeah.
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 So-
So I'm the type of guy that usually when I get to a spot, and granted, these are spots that I've hunted before. Let's just take Kansas, for instance. I get there. I have X amount of spots in my head. I get there and I'll burn an entire day, the first day, just to go check those spots, whether I have to set a stand or, do whatever I got to do to get that spot how I want it to where I can just jump in that tree or be on the ground or whatever. I will burn an entire day doing that just to be able to hunt and not have to worry about going in and cutting limbs or, you know what I mean? Like messing up the spot, So are you guys that way, or are you just more of like, I'm going in, I don't know how I'm doing it or where I'm going, but I'm just going in?
I think it just depends on where you're going. I mean, I feel like I could fall into that kind of mindset of going over the next hill, checking the next place.
Yeah.
If it's somewhere I've never been, or if it's big country, because like being able to see a long ways, I think it truly depends. But if we're talking, I mean, even talking at home, or going to check out just a different, maybe get a permission piece locally, and you go get something like that. I'm doing that. Like I'm going in early. I'm probably going to go in the middle of the day, maybe 11 o'clock. Go in there. I'm going to go set my stand. I'm going to trim that. I'm going to go check on my shooting lanes, and then I might not even hunt that day, or I'll go sit that night. Yeah. And I like to be as prepared as possible. Yeah. While getting into it, and I don't like showing up and making moves on the fly. Okay. I feel like I'm just disturbing things when I get out in the woods, and I'm all over the place. I'm checking this tree. All right, do I have a shot angle this way? What if he comes up this trail? Like, I don't like not knowing. Yeah. And I think that's to my detriment too. Is that's running a lot of trail cameras. That's doing stuff that you're chasing old data, even though it's still in your head of like, well, that deer does exist, or, it's all that combined is just is a theory for me to be able to cope with getting out in the woods, and I'm hoping that I'm doing it the right way. Yeah.
How about, here's a question for you, Josh. E-Scout first or boots on the ground first?
Here or somewhere else?
Anywhere.
E-Scout first.
Why?
Gives me a lay of the land. Then I've got something visually in my head, somewhat of a plan, where I have an idea. Yeah. and then go boots on the ground and confirm it.
Okay.
If I don't find what I'm looking for, to Taylor's point, if he wants to go in and set up multiple stands, it's kind of the same thing in my head, but a different application. I've actually been hunting on the ground here in Michigan too for a number of years. I haven't shot a buck from a tree in 6 or 7 years.
No kidding.
I think the last 7 bucks I've shot here have all been on the ground.
Any particular reason why you didn't jump in a tree?
It just got to be more effective for me, I think.
Yeah.
It's not the normal. It's not.
See, that's not common.
It's not the expected.
Elaborate that on that for me, because I want to know.
So, like, even I'll spin it here. Like my 120 acres, I know that property pretty intimately. I've hung tree stands on that. I hang tree stands on it every year. I've ran trail cameras there. Back when I was running trail cameras, I was always like, "Oh, I got a picture of the buck. I'm going to go sit in that tree stand."
Okay.
Well, what's the chances that he comes back and does the same thing the next day for the same reason? Maybe in the summertime, but as our hunting season progresses, they also change. The weather starts to change, pre-rut starts to kick in, rut starts to kick in, post-rut, all these things start to come into the mix that shift where they are and what they're doing. So you might have the best laid plan, but if he's not doing the same thing for the same reason on that day, that stand might work September 15th, but it might not work November 15th.
Okay.
So I found that I was chasing old data, you mentioned, a lot. And then I went out west and hunted, and it was like, oh, you can just go find them. I came back from my first hunt out west, and that was the first time I sat in my tree stand and I saw deer come out way on the other side of the field, 300 yards away. And the first time the thought crossed my mind, well, if the deer are over there and not over here, I'm just going to get out of my tree and go over there and play with them over there.
Yeah, it's a novel idea.
It was like all of a sudden I was like,
Shoot.
oh, duh, just go over there. And I went and stalked them. I didn't get one that day.
Sure.
I think you fail as many stalks as you do sit in a tree stand and they don't give you a shot, or there's a branch in the way, or they stop behind a tree. All these things add up. 100 things have to go right to get a shot at a deer. But so even here, like if I was going to a new piece, I would pull it up on a map and look at it, and I'd kind of develop an idea. I'll go into the wind, I'll go this way, and I'll come through here, and I'll look here, and I'll look here, and I'll look here, and I'll be likely to find sign in a funnel, in a pinch point, downwind side of a beaver pond or a dam or something like that, or transition line between two different types of forest, and I'll go through that way and go until I find them.
Right.
And when I find what's current and what's happening, then I think about setting up and getting in on them.
That makes sense. Makes sense. The only reason I asked you about the e-scouting prior to the boots on the ground is because e-scouting, there was no e-scouting when I was you guys'
it's a
age.
new thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's been around, let's just say, 7 to 10 years.
Yeah,
probably.
I think so.
Yeah, when like Onyx first came out and stuff, all I ever knew was boots on the ground.
Yep.
Like, we just, in the springtime, me and my buddies would just jump in a vehicle and drive to where we wanted to hunt that fall and just start driving around, and we just walk and walk and walk. Take an entire weekend and just literally just do nothing but walk. And then, obviously all the hunting apps came out, and that kind of changed everything. But in my mind, I still feel like I need to be there first and walk, and then I look in eScout just to verify what I found. I mean, you can do it either way now, but I've always been that way. I mean, granted, now I look obviously more on hunting apps now than I ever have, and they're awesome because they're just getting better and better and better. But there's certain little nuances that you wouldn't see on overhead e-scouting that you'll find when you're there.
Yep.
So, I mean, like I said, you can go one or the other. Doesn't matter. You just have to do it.
I feel like a lot of it, too, is just finding property lines.
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh, I couldn't imagine, going and checking out a new area and exploring and feeling like that I'm doing something productive and then not knowing where I'm at.
Right.
From an aerial perspective. I think I would be really concerned often if I'm, flirting over these property lines of somewhere I just don't know where I'm at.
Yeah.
It's just not comfortable.
I used to do a lot of just wandering around when
But
we
actually,
first started.
it was probably a lot
really
more
weird.
common, though.
Well, yeah. I mean,
People just didn't know.
they just didn't know.
And probably
No.
a lot of people just didn't care
No.
either.
And, I mean, when I first started going out of state, I mean, we just listened to what the farmer said. When you hit a fence, you probably don't, don't cross it,
Yeah.
So it was just kind of one of those deals unless you absolutely knew. So you got a what?
Throw my hoodie on.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, dude. Yeah. Yeah, just throw the mic up to the top. There you go. Yep, that'll shut off. So anyway, he's chilly. It is kind of chilly down here. Sorry, guys. Didn't
I like it.
turn the heat on. Keeps you awake.
That's right.
So, but yeah, I mean, going back to that whole thing, none of that. There was no e-scouting. I remember
Right.
when I bought my first, it was a Garmin Rhino 120. It was a little handheld, GPS, and all it threw down was a crumb trail. There was nothing other than just a little crumb trail that you had to go off of. So you hit the home button when you left, and you just try to follow that crumb trail on the way back. So I still got it. I actually still got it. I don't even know why I have it. It's just been sitting in a drawer upstairs.
It's going to be a collector's item soon.
It might be. I don't know. I thought I was the shit when I bought that thing first, and now I look at it and go, I don't think this thing could get me out of a parking lot. So I don't know. But now it's just got to have your phone. But yeah, it's interesting how technology has changed how we hunt. That's for sure. So yeah, I don't know where we were talking.
To go back to your point earlier about just walking around, I think that's actually what fed. I did the same
The whole
thing,
ground hunting thing.
and then the e-scouting becomes a thing.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't spent a lot of time walking and looking, I wouldn't really know what I was looking at or looking for
Yeah.
on the map. So now I can look at the map of an unfamiliar area
Yeah.
and think about, because I've walked and seen things in certain places, and
Yeah.
and I can kind of tell what I'm looking for. So I think
Okay.
you
Right.
definitely have to have
So
both.
you think that sign in one area would transfer over to a different area
Yeah.
of similar terrain?
Mhm.
Yeah.
certain
That makes
features,
sense. Yeah.
funnels, pinch points,
Yeah. Yeah.
or out west, certain slope aspects,
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
hillsides, certain types of cover. Where is it open? Where are there trees?
Mm-hmm.
What way is the wind blowing? They have to live out there. So what are they seeking right now in the moment? If the wind's blowing 25 miles out of the west, it's 10 degrees outside,
Yeah.
they're going to be on the leeward side of a hill somewhere.
I would 100% agree with you on that, because I've seen that when I've hunted out in the sandhills in Nebraska, that there's not a ton of trees up in the sandhills. So, I mean, that plays into a huge part of how those deer, where they bed and what they bed under, because there's also heat. And I found, especially in the sandhills, that you find like a little blowout where the sand is just kind of blown out. That's usually where you'll find like a big mule deer,
Yeah.
or even an antelope or something like that.
It even translates here too.
Yeah.
I've gone out there where there's no trees,
Yeah.
seen that. Same weather here, even though there's trees, we can't see as much. So I don't know that we always think about it in the same way, but it's still deer doing the same thing because
Yeah.
of the weather.
It's a good point.
And I've walked around then
Yeah.
and looked on a map and said, oh, maybe here, maybe on the backside
Yeah.
of this hill, maybe on the backside of this hill, maybe on the backside of this hill. I'm
Yeah.
going to go put my boots on the ground and check those spots.
Yeah.
And often run into deer.
Same thing.
Doing
Yeah.
the same thing for the same reason, it just doesn't look the same.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
They still got to save calories and stay alive out there too. They're out there 24/7. And
No, yeah. It's crazy the different terrains that deer will live in. Like in Kansas, it's just freaking wide open.
Yeah.
It's wide open, and you go to a single group of trees, maybe 6 trees, some cottonwoods or something, and there's nothing there. But then you go up to it and, okay, I'm going to throw a sit at it. Well, then you sit there, and it's just like a beacon. They just they work right to those trees. Dude, I see it every year. That deer that I shot this year, I literally am sitting in a wide open, humongous wide open area. Out in front of me is just a bunch of like red brush in the middle of this wide open CRP grass, and there's just maybe 20 or so random old cottonwoods that are just, you can see forever. But every time I sit in this tree, I always get a crack at a deer because they just work by it for whatever reason. It's just, I don't know. It's just like they've guided that they've lived that way for years, and that's just the way they move through those trees. There's no particular reason. It's just the way it is. It's crazy.
There's no science to it.
No, there is no science to it. I will say this.
It is
I have to have a decoy at this spot, though. Otherwise, it's really, really random. At least with a decoy, you get their attention. Yeah. So, and that's what I've had to use a few times out there is a decoy. So, yeah. But, so going back to the whole sitting on the ground thing, sounds like you've kind of perfected it a little bit.
I don't know if I perfected it, but I got a lot more effective with it.
It's getting better. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't ever think about doing it here until I went out west. Yeah. And then I came back here, and it was like a revelation to me. Yeah. It was like, ooh, add that to the toolbox. Right. More tools I have, more opportunity I can have. And, like Taylor's in McBain, I'm in Marion. It's farm country.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's a lot of broken ground. There's a lot of hills. I'll call them hills. Yeah. They're not big. It's not like out west hills, but they're still hills. Deer still walk through certain parts of the field because it shelters them from a visual from the road. Right. They still use saddles. They still bet on the downwind side of hills. They still work the edges of certain features, whether it be trees or swamp. And getting in on the ground, I shot one last year out of a fence row. Yeah. That it had enough cover in it that I could get in there and hide. So much like a tree stand, I went in there and I sat in an ambush location with a wide open field on both sides of me. Right. But I was close enough to a certain point where they like to cross in that field. Okay. And there was a hickory tree there that they were feeding on. And buck walked out at 29 yards on the ground. And that was
no idea
that
you were
was
there.
That because I'd never been there. He'd never experienced any danger there. It's a complete surprise. Yeah. The year before that, we've got some CRP in the back and small pine trees. They bed up in there. It's like an island. You can't get to it without. They've got the advantage. Sure. You can't get close to it without them seeing you. So I took the long way around our property line and came in, and like you said, in Kansas, there's a little island with a couple big trees in it and some grass in the field that can't be farmed. That's where the farmer's rock pile is. Right. I went and climbed in there and sat in the grass.
Yeah, and the deer know that too.
Buck feeds down off the hill. He's got a wide open alfalfa field. But he walks down, and he walks right around the edge of that little island of grass and trees where I was sitting. 12 yards from a shot on the ground, game over.
It's so sexy.
He walked onto my pin and looked up at me and realized, oh, I just messed up. Yeah. And I couldn't hang a tree stand there. Right. There's trees there, but they're gnarly. Yeah. They're leaners and they're full of branches and stuff. But it was like, I only hunted that spot twice. Okay. I went and sat there once. Nothing came within range. I went there and sat there second time. The wind was right. Buck walks out of shot. Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of, they're doing certain things, and then I just try to sneak in where I can. If I can get in a tree stand and do the same thing, I'll do it. Sure. But it's what's available for me to get an opportunity to mix it up with them.
Yeah, it's tools in the tool belt is really what it is. Like, it's no different than being like a ladder stand hunter or a saddle hunter or whatever hunter, lock-on hunter or ground hunter. It's whatever, So, I mean, I am that guy that, like, I try it all. I've never say I'm really good at any one thing. I'm okay at a lot of things. Right. So
Swiss Army knife.
Yeah. The Swiss Army knife. Yeah. I'm a spoon. I'm a fork. I'm scissors. So, anyway, all right. So now we've gotten through some technical stuff. Let's talk some deer stories.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Which ones we got?
Yeah, I want to hear about your Kansas one because I never really got to hear about that one last year. This will be year 2.
Super quick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're an hour in. We need to cut this off.
Shoot, yeah. I'll go as fast as I can. I'm 2 for
2, right? Yeah,
I am 2 for 2 in Kansas. Can't go back this year. family obligations.
Okay. You're going to get a point though, right?
Oh yeah, I'm getting a
You
point.
got to get a point.
Yeah, so I can't go back this year.
Let me ask you this: How did you pull 2 years in a row? I mean,
I think we're just in a unit luck, and I think we're just in a unit that
doesn't get a lot of
pressure.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right.
It's not a sought after spot. I mean,
What unit is that?
It's between 1 and 20.
Exactly. Somewhere over there. So I think that's part of it. 2 is luck. 3 is it just happened. I don't know. About first year, I did the experience shooting my first year from the ground.
Yep.
Year 1, shot a buck there. And then last year, I ended up.
It's fun when they look you in the eye, isn't it?
Dude, it was unreal. That honestly, shooting that buck from the ground was one of the experiences that, shooting every buck has a memory, right?
Yeah.
But that was the first one from the ground and didn't expect it to show up. That was really, really cool. That was something I'll always remember for sure. But then this year, we had a permission piece last year, and then I shot my buck on walk-in before I even stepped foot on our permission piece.
Okay.
And then this year, ended up going to the permission piece right away. Did a quick speed scout because there's 4 different parcels that we have access to.
Okay.
And there's one primary one we wanted to focus on. We spent a lot of time there last year. So after I shot mine, my buddy Ty and I drove around the sections kind of looking for deer, kind of scouting for him. And then he sat that quite a bit. And so we kind of fell in love with this one piece.
Yeah. But you were by yourself this year.
This year I was by myself.
Okay.
Yep. So I talked with Josh about it and ended up applying. I was almost not even going to apply. I was like, my buddy Ty can't go. He had some obligations for himself. So I was like, all right, I'll try it. I'll go. I was prepared to be there for 7 days, maybe 8 if, the weather made sense and, could have a really good hunt last day. So I get down there. I left at 3 a.m, drove down there. I wanted to be able
day?
to. 2 days.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was like 2 days after you. This last year.
Okay, so we left on the 16th of November.
A day after. I went on the 17th.
Okay.
Because I shot him on the 18th.
Okay.
So I left. No. I shot him on the 18th or 19th. I can't remember. I stayed for opening day for tracking of rifle here.
Okay.
So I stayed for the 15th, 16th. I left the morning of the 17th.
Okay.
Would have been at 3 a.m. on the 17th. Drove through, got there at about 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I had about 2 hours of daylight left. I did a little mooch hunt to where I went and checked the edges of the fields.
Mm-hmm.
I had my bow in hand. I put a couple cameras out as I went around because we're on private.
Okay.
So we could run cameras in Kansas. And I was putting a couple of cameras out, running that, checked a couple of scrapes, walking every 50, 60 yards, sit down, throw a couple of grunts, rattle a little bit, wait 5, 10 minutes, nothing, keep moving. And then I finished that little mooch hunt and then went back to the motel room, stayed the night. Got up the next day and it was, as you can attest to it, it was raining so freaking hard.
Yeah.
The rain and the wind was unreal. It felt like a tornado for the first 6 hours of the day.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you woke up, I was ready for a morning hunt. And I look up, I'm like,
we ain't going.
not a chance. I mean, it would have been dumb to go out there. It's putting yourself in danger.
We did go out. Thad and I did go out, but it was strictly to put up stands.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the perfect day to we're going to get soaked. We're not going to hunt. We might as well just go put up the stands that we want to put up and be done with it.
Yeah.
And I'm happy we did it, but oh my God, dude, we got so freaking soaked.
It was bad. It was
bad.
really bad. So I didn't hunt that morning, and then I found out that the rain was going to break about 2 o'clock-ish. So I got my stuff ready. I headed out of the motel room at about noon, 1 o'clock. And then I picked a spot on the property. I was like, I've never sat this before. I kind of want to just go check it out. So I went in there, hung my set, hated the tree I was in. Absolutely hated it. I was sitting on a river edge, perfect pinch point between the fields.
Yeah.
Everything added up to be in the right spot. But this tree was crookeder than shit. And I get up to the spot where I want to be at. And I'm only 12 feet up.
Okay.
Because I'm on the top of like a top of a hill.
Okay.
And if anything came down to my right, I'm shooting 30 some feet down.
Yeah.
And then if something came from behind me, which I didn't anticipate, I would be like eye level with it.
Right.
So it was one of those weird topography changes. So I'm sitting there for maybe an hour, 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire time, I'm not even looking for deer, right? I'm looking for a new damn tree. I hated this tree because I'm sitting in my saddle and I'm off to the side and my hips pinching and I'm like, this freaking sucks. So I spot the tree that I want to get into. It's across the ditch of the creek that was actually flowing with water at the time.
Right.
Oh, it was like a rapids. So I saw the tree I wanted to get into. I was getting ready to get down and do it. So put my arrow back in my quiver. I align it all back up. I take my release off. I put it in my pocket. And I just do one last glance and I'm like, shit, here he comes. He's at about 50 yards and walking straight towards me because, of course, smart me, right? I do a rattling sequence 10 minutes before I get down. And for some reason, it works down there. Here,
it does work.
It doesn't work here as well. I mean, people say it does. I haven't rattled nothing in Michigan, but yeah, he just comes on a rope walking straight at me. And he gets to about 28, 30 yards facing me. And he's got 3 options, basically. 1 is to just turn around and go home. 2 is to get down in this bowl that was kind of like right in front of me, but it was thick. There was no trail in there. There was no reason for him to go into that. Then number 3 is for him to circle that bowl and kind of walk up the hill up to my left. And if he does that, he's going to have a 15-yard broadside, perfect money shot for me.
Nice.
So I see him. He gets to that stopping point. I'm like, shit. And he's looking for me. He's trying to see what the hell was making that noise. So I dig my release out of my pocket. I strap it back on. I get my arrow. I wait for him to turn his head. Turns his head. I knock my arrow back up, and I'm locked and loaded, ready to go. Threw my phone on my the painted arrow setup right there.
Yeah.
I have no affiliation with those guys. I love that setup.
That's a pretty cool setup.
I love it.
Yeah.
It makes it super simple.
Yeah.
Right. So I end up throwing that on there, and then he makes the right choice. He comes up that perfect trail. He's walking right up it.
And this is a no-doubter deer right from the get-go, right? Like, as soon as you saw him, or you were like, okay, yeah, this is happening.
It's the caliber of deer that in time, at some point, I might end up passing.
Sure.
I ain't there yet.
Not there.
I'm not there. I
tell a lot of people, I've got a lot of 120-inch deer in me.
I'll say this is a 130-inch 8 that
Yeah.
I'm just. He's massy. He's heavy.
Yeah.
This is the heaviest deer I've ever shot.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So it was just something that I didn't have under my belt, and he got me tickling pink. Right. So he's working up that side hill trail, and there was about a group of 2 or 3 trees that was perfect right there, and I knew that was my draw point. He didn't even skip a beat, walked right up it. I drew. I yelled at him once, twice. The 3rd time, I'm screaming at him, which is a weird thing in Kansas, I swear. Both deer that I've shot, I've done the exact same thing in Kansas.
Yeah.
They're walking broadside, and you yell at them, and they turn their chest towards you to look what the hell's going on.
Right.
I don't know if it's like a dominance thing, to be like present themselves of who they are.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Talking to me?
Yeah. Want to talk shit? I'm here. He was there. So what did I do? And same as the first deer. I put it as tight as I could to the shoulder. I let it rip. I heard the pop that you want to hear when you pop to the diaphragm. And he spins out and takes off. And I knew I punched him. I knew it was perfect, right? But then I had a feeling like it's probably lung liver. I've seen that dance.
Right.
I've heard about it. I've tracked it. I've seen it. I'll check my arrow to confirm, but I'll have to give that deer some time. So I'm sitting there. I'm shaking like crazy. I think, fuck. I've been here for an hour and 30 minutes in Kansas.
This isn't supposed to happen this way.
I've hunted for less than 2 days in Kansas in 2 years, and
Right.
I've shot in 2 deer.
Right.
It ain't gonna happen again. I'm super
Lucky.
superstitious. I'm lucky.
That's good, dude.
There's a horseshoe somewhere.
Better to be lucky than good sometimes.
So yeah, ended up punching that one, and then I start making my phone calls. Call the usuals. I call my stepdad first. I call my wife. I call, a handful of buddy. I call my buddy Ty. Like, you missed out, you son of a bitch. Are you kidding me? Like, I've been here for an hour. And
this shit's easy.
yeah, what are you doing? Why are you here? No, it was good. And then I dropped my bow down, tossed my backpack. I'm like, I'm getting the hell out of here. Like, I know I got to give this deer some time. I'm leaving. And as soon as I drop everything and I look up, same trail comes an absolute toad.
Giant.
Toad.
That's the video you sent me.
Just the tallest, tightest frame you've seen. I mean, it's another 8. Had a little sticker off one of his points. My gosh, he was sexy. I mean, that was
Just a magnum.
yeah, and it makes you contemplate life choices, And it's like, you know what? I've got a horseshoe somewhere. I'm feeling good. I'm not trying to risk my license, my tag, my morals. The killer in me wants to just whip that thing right back up there and rip another one. But there's a man watching upstairs.
Yeah,
and there's there's people over your shoulder that are keeping a tab on you.
For sure, dude. For sure. That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
Do you think if that deer wouldn't have quote unquote caught you off guard, that you maybe would have like looked at him longer and maybe made a different decision?
No.
The
The only reason why he's only just scores 130 because he's only 13 and a half wide.
Okay.
I mean, he's got good time length. He's not.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, the score is not the best telling part of that deer.
Yeah.
It was a mature old deer that you can just tell that is just a brute.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, for sure.
That deer was heavier than shit.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I drugged that thing by myself only about 10 yards and I was heaving. Like, that's a big deer.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the mass, I can't touch my fingers around his bases.
So he's legit.
Yeah, it was a great deer.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to, I don't want to put it down. But on the other side of the coin is this other one showed up. And then
significantly bigger.
And then we're running cameras.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more of them around.
Well,
so it's like,
hey,
it makes you contemplate.
I was just going to say, better to leave it alone and know that they're still there, or
Exactly.
potentially still there moving forward into the years to come. So
Yep.
You're lucky, dude. You got the lucky rabbit's foot.
I'm going to try to keep it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my best.
Because I think Thad and I were there for close to 2 weeks, and I shouldn't say anything. I did have that opportunity on that deer that I lost, and Thad had some opportunities too. So, like, Kansas is my jam, dude. I love it.
Kansas.
I love it. It's so tough, though.
I mean, it's horrible. I hate Kansas. If I were you, I would never go back to Kansas.
Yeah. Maybe 10, 20 years down the road, but I'm going to keep going until then. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's my main kill story. I killed a good buck in Michigan this year too.
That's good.
Yeah, it was a nice deer. I never saw on camera.
Riding the red wave.
Yeah, it was
Nice.
a very cool deer. Shot him a couple of days before I left for Kansas.
Nice.
Yep.
That's always a good confidence builder, going into a different state or a different hunt, knowing that you got one under your belt and kind of sealed the deal already on it. So
for sure.
How about you, Josh? You got a good one?
Which one?
Shit.
I'll give you one.
Give him a
Give me one. Give me
him the
one.
muley.
Yeah.
This year or solo?
Yeah, this year. This year's muley was a tank.
It was.
Set the scene for me.
So I went back. I actually touched on it earlier. I went back to the same area. I had gone the year before.
Okay.
And got my buck.
But
the weather had gotten.
Is this Montana?
South Dakota.
South Dakota. Okay.
Kansas. It was in Kansas.
It was in Kansas.
Everybody should go to Kansas.
Yeah,
It's the
yeah,
best
yeah.
place I've ever hunted.
Perfect.
Yep. They walk right out and let you
Right.
shoot them. It's
Right.
so easy. I think everybody should do that.
You should. Just give me a call. I'll tell you where to go.
It was. I actually went back to get to the area that I couldn't get to before.
Okay. Is this public?
Yep.
Okay.
And I had, everything's a learning experience. So I had done a lot of work physically to prepare myself to get back in there and backpack back in there and get set up. I made a couple gear changes.
Were you by yourself?
Not this time.
Okay.
The first time I was.
Okay.
And the area I wanted to get to, I couldn't get to, and the weather kept me out of there. So I kind of had a little bit of unfinished business.
Sure.
So that was my goal when I went back this time, was to make sure I was damn well and ready to get back in there, because
right.
I was going to go get in there. And I very well could have found nothing, but it wound up working out. We got back to that area, drove way back in as far as we could, and then hiked up in, set up camp, and then hunted out of that area for a few days. And my buddy I was with had never done it before.
Okay.
So I was kind of backseat riding
Sure.
and helping out and watching and spotting and letting him take all the shots. And he was getting a little beat up and a little disheartened.
Those trips will beat you up, man.
They've got a sixth sense.
Yeah.
Getting within 100 yards of them is something. Getting within 40 yards of them,
Yeah.
they could be on the other side of a hill with the wind blowing 40 miles an hour in your favor.
Right.
And they're just like,
Yeah.
something's here,
Still-
and they're gone.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It's
What time
ridiculous.
of year is this?
November.
Okay. During the rut. Is it rut out
Pre-
there? Pre-rut?
Pre-rut, I would say.
Okay. So you were early November?
Yep.
Okay.
So I was, we got back in that area, and he was kind of a little bit beat up, and was like, "Why don't you take a shot at it? I'm good for a minute.
Yeah.
I'll watch you." I said, "Okay." So we found a nice buck, really nice buck, and I put a stalk on him. I had him bedded down in a ditch. I was playing peekaboo. I could just see his antler tips. I was at 43 yards, and I got a little excited. I'm like, I don't know if I can quite make the shot. I can't tell what way he's laying. I didn't have enough cover around me. I couldn't expose myself. And when I was kind of playing peekaboo, trying to figure it out, I actually tried to go around behind him and shoot down off the top of the ditch. And I got within 20 yards of him that direction, but it was the morning time, and I couldn't get any closer because I couldn't see to shoot him.
Okay.
But my shadow was going to cast directly across from his face the way he was laying
yeah.
on the other side of, and I say a ditch, not like a Michigan ditch that's got some water in it.
Right,
This is
right.
like a washed out ravine in the
Yeah.
Badlands that's
Yeah.
10 yards wide and 12 or 15 feet deep.
Sure.
And he's tucked right up in the edge,
Yep.
right up underneath that cliff-like lip.
Yep.
I couldn't get to him from that direction. I had good cover noise with the wind, so I went back to where I was, and then I tried to peek again, and he caught something, and he busted out of there. I got to full draw. I put it on him, and he basically jumped off my pin. And I was like, okay, that wasn't it. So I went back to my vantage point that following morning, and we're getting up there a little later than I wanted to. The wind was blowing. I had my puffy gear on. It was cold. I got all set up, and I actually kind of inadvertently hit the trigger on my tripod, and my binoculars tipped way down forward as I was getting set up, and I put my eyes in them, and I stood it back up, and there was a deer. And I was like,
Oh, no shit.
oh, here I am. I'm going to look at like hundreds of acres here. I'm looking a mile around here from this spot.
Sucker's right in
and
front of you.
there's a deer at like 500 yards right there. He's walking my way, and I'm like, oh, shit, this
Nice.
is real. Following two does up in, coming up out of the sage flats, coming in along the bottom side of the big, I guess you would call it like a plateau or a butte out there. So I was like, well, the way he's coming in, I'm going to lose visual on him because of the terrain. But I can tell where he's headed. It was actually really close to where I'd stalked before, so I had an idea of that terrain. And in my head, I said, I knew if I could get down to this point, I'd be able to see him. So I bailed off the backside, looped around, popped over. Well, now he's like, I'm looking at him with my binoculars, and I'm like, wow, he's big. This is a really nice deer. And I pulled my binoculars down. He's right there. He's like 80 yards away.
Damn.
I'm like, oh, shit.
Still following the does?
Still following the does.
Okay.
So they kind of came up into this, I'll call it a little cove in the bottom of the hill,
Okay.
in the base of the hill. And he was kind of looping around to my side, and then they were going to go down and most likely bed down into the ditch.
Sure.
They actually dipped down into the very head of the ditch. But it was pretty brushy in there,
Okay.
and the does popped back up, so they didn't quite feel comfortable laying in there. and he was just kind of browsing along behind him, bumping along with him, but not really like rutting him and chasing him.
Yeah, because I think the mule deer, they tend to rut a little bit later than the white tail. Yeah.
So I bailed off the backside again, and I was like, well, I'll get down on the point of this ridge that I'm on that they're paralleling. I'll see where they go. I'll put them to bed. I'll make another stalk and see what I can do.
Yeah.
So I swung down again, and I popped up in a little saddle. I'm looking at the deer again, and I'm looking at the deer, and I'm like, all right, where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? I'm going to put him to bed. I'm going to sneak right up on him. I'm going to get this sucker. I'm looking at him, and I realized, like, he's really close. And I ranged him, and he was 52 yards. And I'm like, well,
shit.
you idiot. Why are you going to put him to bed? Just shoot him. He's right there.
Put him to sleep, not in bed.
Yeah.
Shoot.
So I got my bow around, got my sight adjusted. He had shifted just a little bit. Thankfully, the does had fed down just a little bit farther, and they were just leaving my sight. So it was just him. And I had a little chunk of sagebrush in the center of this little saddle. And I mean little, like not much bigger than the bar top we're at. It was just a little depression that I was just peeking my head up behind.
Yeah.
So I tucked back. I re-ranged him, and he was a little farther, and he was at 62. So I got drawn back, and I was like, ooh, I'm shaking. This ain't good. So I literally like closed my eyes and just put my head down, and I took 3 deep breaths for like 5 seconds. I said, all you got to do is make one good shot.
Yeah.
You know what you're doing. I collected myself, drew the bow back, rose up behind the little piece of sagebrush, shifted just to the side, exposed it, and he took a step forward and turned his head away from me to eat some sagebrush.
Oh,
and I was
shit.
like, it doesn't get any better than that.
No, it does not.
I put my pin on him, and the wind was blowing pretty stiff that day, and a little gust hit me, and I blew way up on his neck, and I was like, ooh, not that. And I pulled it back and put it on his last rib to account for the wind a little bit.
Yeah.
Squeeze, and sent it. But it got pretty confusing pretty quickly for me. I heard a loud, I thought I heard chest cavity, like hitting a watermelon with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, but I heard a loud crack. And of course you shoot your bow, and the arrow leaves, and then I see a big mule kick, and then he's running away from me. And I see like 25 inches of my arrow sticking out. I'm like...
Opposite side or entry side?
Entry side.
Oh, shit.
I'm like, oh, that's bad. And he's running away, and the arrow's waving in the wind, and I was like... And it looked like it was way back. I'm like, this is dicey. So I peel out, and I'm going up to get advantage. I saw where he went to, and I was looking across perpendicular to the ditch that he went into. And I was trying to figure out if he was going to come out of there, because I was thinking I was going to have to make a follow-up shot.
Yeah.
And it wound up going to get my buddy, and we loop up to where we could see down the ditch, parallel. And I'm like, hey, watch this ditch. Don't take your eyes off it.
Right.
We've got to know. If a deer comes out of here, we got to know where he goes. Tracking out there, clay,
Yeah.
thin, wispy little grass.
Yeah.
Finding blood is hard.
Hard. Extremely.
It's really hard. And it's deceiving because you can see so much, but you can't see so much just as well.
Right.
So we get up there, and he's like, man, I see pretty nice 4x4 down on the other end with 2 does. He's walking slow, and I'm like, my heart sinks. I think this is not good. So I get my big binos out of my pack, and I'm looking out there, and I'm like, man, I don't see a wound. I don't see a dark spot. I don't see a limp. I don't see anything. He's just walking slow. And it's far enough away I can't really tell what's on his head.
Sure.
And I'm like, man, I don't know if it's been enough time for him to go that far.
How far was it?
Oh, the deer we were looking at was probably like 900, 2,000
Oh, wow.
yards.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if he went running out of there,
It's
They would cover that.
It was way
They would cover
back.
that
yeah,
back
it's
leg.
realistic.
45
It could've
seconds,
been.
you know.
Yeah. Well, the deer I shot went 600 yards in a matter of minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
and this had been 20 or 30 minutes
Yeah.
at this point. And we're looking and we're looking and we're looking. I'm like, man, where did he go? Where did he go? I'm pretty convinced that it was not good at this point. because of what I saw. And I wound up glassing again, and I started at the bottom to work my way up and see if I could glass down this ditch and catch an antler tip or, something.
Yep.
And I started at the head of the ditch, and he was laying right below me.
Oh, no.
Dead,
Shit.
deader than a stone, right in the bottom of the ditch. And I was like, I saw a magpie fly up, and I was like, oh, what's he doing down there? And I looked at the bird, and I saw a white spot, and I was like, oh, shit, that's a deer. Never been looking.
It's the best feeling.
So we work our way down there and get down there, and it was a great buck. Beautiful 4x4
Yeah.
with brows. My biggest one to date. It was awesome.
How far did he go?
Probably like 130 yards.
Oh, wow.
Or so.
So he went down into a ditch and just
Last
a
I
little
saw,
depression or something.
he was going over the edge, down into the head of this ditch and kind of turning.
Oh,
so I thought he
okay.
was going to get down in there and
In it
run
and
down
go.
that ditch.
Okay.
What I didn't realize until I got to him was the shot was perfect.
Dead
Just
money.
Absolutely right behind the shoulder.
10 ringed him.
halfway up, 10 ring, quartering away.
So what were you seeing?
It hit his offside shoulder.
Oh.
Right on the ball
Yeah.
of the
Okay.
scapula.
Okay.
And it stopped the arrow. And it broke the end of it when he kicked.
Oh, yeah. And then
So
the
when he
remaining
ran
part-
away from me,
Yeah.
180 degrees straight away from me, my arrow was backing out of his ribs.
Oh, okay.
And the arrow was also
Kick looked like it was.
that kick made it look like it was way back with no
Okay.
penetration. So I was thinking like back leg or something bad, and it was 10 ring.
So it was just a
Smoking.
broken
Money
arrow
shot.
coming out.
Yep.
Rough.
Man, that would have been like if you had not found him, or if you went off like say maybe footage or something, you'd look at that and go, "Oh, we're gonna have to back out."
It looked like
Right.
it was sticking out of his right rear leg.
Yeah.
And didn't go in more than a couple inches.
Damn.
You're hoping for an artery at that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You're thinking, this is a terrible shot.
But that's why I was so concerned with making a move to keep a visual, because blood trailing
Right.
out there is so hard.
Yeah,
And if you're tracking a wounded deer in country like that,
Yeah.
it could go a long, long ways.
Yeah.
You can track them for a long, long ways too, but
Right.
what are you going off of?
Right.
That visual is absolutely
It's key.
It's a lot.
It's key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like here where you can
Yeah.
call a dog and have a good scent and all that.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's so dry and so hot.
Yeah.
And I don't know anybody with a dog, and you were in Michigan.
That's a hike. That's a hike.
I think there's lots of dogs out there, but they're probably running deer by themselves rather than
Probably.
actually.
Pack of wild
So,
dogs out there.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was a real relief. It's one of those, I've seen it go both ways. I've been on tracks
Yeah.
before too, and lost one. So your heart sinks and you go worst case scenario, but it turned out to be everything you trained for, everything you practiced for. It was everything it was supposed to be.
That's freaking awesome.
And it was a perfect shot on a great buck, and it was a big long pack out, and it was absolutely miserable. It sucked, and I don't know why I like that stuff, but
Embrace the suck. That's what I always
you
say.
do.
Go out on those trips and everybody's like, dude, you're miserable. You look like you got ran through a ringer after you get home. And I'm like,
Best thing I've ever done.
But it's what I love to do.
It makes a good story.
Yeah. It does for sure. So, well, we're an hour and a half in.
Man, time flies.
I know, man. Good stories, good conversation with you guys. I think we should probably cut this off here and we can reconvene at another time, because I know you guys got lots more stories to tell. And I frankly, it's been a lot of fun. I enjoy the company and enjoy you guys coming and talking shit. That's what I like doing. I like talking shit.
Especially hunting shit.
Deer camp shit. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we're going to cut it off at that. Again, Josh, Taylor, appreciate you guys coming on. We'll have you on again if you guys will be interested.
Of course. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure, man. For
Been a
sure.
blast, man.
So we're going to leave it at that. Appreciate y'all listening in. This is the Mic'd Up Outdoor Podcast. We'll see y'all soon.